the player the Pa who they were looking for from from Sunny Lion as their support replacement for Druid, could not make it to the event. He couldn't get his visa. So they had to get a Korean Open Division player who was known as a Healer Please to come in and substitute for them. So they didn't even speak the same language. They had to communicate the entire tournament in English, and they still beat the one.
That is absolutely crazy. And you basically brought it up, right? Beyond the game, although fighting against all odds, you know, coming in with language barriers as well, they did admirably well at the Eastern Clash, at least when it came to, you know, facing other Chinese teams. Of course, the fate of China and the state of China after the Eastern Clash is pretty much devastated when compared to Korean teams.
And here's where we also have to remember something very important, that when we're moving on to BlizzCon right now, which is the next goal for all these teams, there are only 2 spots for HGC China due to the fact that they lost the Eastern Clash to Korea. Unsurprisingly, but only 2 instead of 4. Suddenly, every spot counts. And we would normally assume that one of those spots would go to CE or SBT, but both of them have shown to be shaky over the last couple of months. That is no longer certain.
And the thing is, you brought up CE and SBT looking a little bit shaky or shakier than before, and I fully agree with you, Tetcher. SBT, the moment they showed up, that was the playoffs. And while that is good, that could also backfire. You know, if you put all your hopes and all your trust into a strong playoff performance at the end of the season, it might also backfire. On a bad day, you might not be able to win all those games, and all of a sudden, your BlizzCon spot is in danger. So, yep, only 2 spots because China did not really please us at the Eastern Clash. And it's going to be very interesting to see which of the 2 or of all the teams in China are going to make it. Any personal guesses at the beginning of the season when we haven't really seen much, Tetcher?
BTG, I think they will actually make it, considering their performance with subs. I think that their meta is probably the most suited for international meta as well. It's the most traditional China, very brawly. Doesn't try to be something it's not, but if they get better at macro, I think they can maybe compete with some of the mid-tier teams in some of the other regions.
Especially with one of their new roster additions. Ooh, we're going to talk about that later.
No, who plays for the one?
No,
otherwise, I'm still going to stick with SBT because they're consistent, but we'll see from there. So, Reina and Dahaka coming in for TeamNut. This time, that Diablo as well instead of the Muradin. The Muradin was already very effective, so I'm curious to see what they can do with this Diablo. And the Dahaka was incredibly effective. I have no complaints about that at all.
Yeah, and it looks like Sally Whitemane continues to be banned here up to this point. We would love to see a little bit of Chinese Whitemane. I mean, right now, if you have Whitemane in a game, there's still basically 2 routes you can build her, right? You still have the Q build, which you will see every now and then. We actually saw Zelia the other day doing great work when it came to not only protecting his allies, but also protecting himself with that very Q-esque build. And then we, of course, also have the Inquisition build, which which is a little more versatile. You know, you can play it in very many different ways. So, let's see.
Nice.
Arthas, Tetcher. We see an Arthas over a Muradin. I just double-checked if he wasn't banned.
Yeah, the Arthas. It's coming back in. I'm interested. They have a Phoenix, so obviously it's got lots of slows. So otherwise, though, there's not a huge amount of hard lockdown. Like, it might affect Diablo. Tracer comes in, because now you have no hard lockdown coming in, because you picked Arthas early. Now they have to pick an offlaner who has that kind of anti-Tracer. Varian can offlane. He's a more traditional counter, but he's been so off-meta for a very long time now.
Yeah, please buff Varian at some point. I would be very much supporting this.
Not too much, though.
Not too much.
Buff Varian and Sylvanas at the same time in time for whenever the next Battle for Azeroth patch is.
Yeah.
Seems perfect to me. As we see Hugo bringing out the Thrall. He doesn't have a great immediate lockdown unless he goes Sundering, which was dominant at the Eastern Clash. But what he does have is that Sundering, as we said, and instant poke. So we're going to be able to just consistently harass that Tracer to try and burn her down that way.
Yeah, and by the same token, as you mentioned, he's also not really that easy to kill for a Tracer, especially in the later stages of the game when he has those, you know, additional self-healing tools. Level 13, for example, is going to be very crucial in that regard. Oftentimes when a Tracer thinks she has that Thrall on lock, he will have some sort of self-healing and actually survive that pulse bomb burst. For now, though, I think both teams with pretty solid drafts. The one's draft is a little bit more specific because it caters to what they like to play, especially with Huhu on that Arthas. Which one do you like more, Tetra? Is there any preferences on your side?
I mean, I don't like picking Arthas that early these days. The meta's just so easy to dance around. That was just an invite to play Tracer. So, like, you don't even have to burst Tracer. Just do the traditional auto. Just do, like, the old traditional China style of just, like, untouchable. Because what lockdown did I actually have to kill you outside of Sundering?
Right.
I mean, I really am not a fan of picking Arthas that early unless you already have some other kind of incredible lockdown going on. However, their Phoenix combo is absolutely absurd. They have Arthas, they have Earthquake, they have Deckard Cain. Everything's coming up Phoenix. I think there's going to be so much pressure on Hanzo to not die to Tracer and to get enough damage onto her to allow the rest to finish her off.
And speaking of Phoenix here, Keshi, who played it at game number 1, I wasn't really a big fan of his first initial performance here on the new team. I think he had a couple of moments in which he sometimes overstayed his welcome, got a little too deep, a little too close to the enemy heroes. And against a Tracer, that could actually be punished super hard. So let's see if the One are going to clean up their plays, because as we said, against a team like TeamNut, they normally shouldn't break much of a sweat. But boy, oh boy, did they sweat in game number 1. And here we go to Curse Hollow on the left-hand side. We see TeamNut with Mercy, Atui, Malthael, Jigsaw, and Dia.
And on the right, it is the One with Hugo, Keshi, Meng, ZJZ, and Huhu.
Huhu, man, bringing out the Arthas. It's one of his personal favorites.
Immediately, we're seeing Exterminator coming in for Raider. Neat. Why, though? I don't understand. Outside of the fact it does affect Arthur schools.
That it does. It also affects bosses, so sometimes, you know, when you have to race a boss, for example, or you really want to squeeze in a mercenary camp or a boss after taking down several team members, that could actually help, especially, you know, when you take a look at what the enemy team has with a Hanzo. You know, sometimes you just need to do it quickly, but I agree with you, Tetra. It's not the battleground where I personally would have gone for it.
Finds Dia, gains a stack on his level 1 immediately. Diablo is able to escape.
Oh man, I'm loving that one. We can work with a nickname like this. Look at Jigsaw though, grabbing the Hugo, but they don't have the health on Dehaka to actually finish the kill.
Yeah, they were looking for her, but in this case, the pieces did not fit together, and Jigsaw was unable to acquire the kill, at least at this stage. And don't worry, I will have puns for days of all these new players, as Dia is able to play around the Scroll of Sealing for the moment. Mid lane has what is usually the two slow empowered heroes together. However, Reyna in this case has not gone for that talent, as we previously mentioned.
Absolutely true. He did go for the Exterminator, as our cameramen, as our observers are actually highlighting here as well. Pretty cool stuff. We see Echo of the Elements, so no surprising talent choices here for Thrall. I mean, China, they like their Crash Lightning Thrall every now and then, especially in maps like Volskaya or BOE, but here on a more traditional, more standard battlegrounds, of course, the Echo of the Elements is a perfect choice.
As a reminder to people, the reason we're saying Huhu is because that is how it's pronounced in Chinese. That is, as I was told off for pronouncing it Hihi.
I mean, Tetra literally got it from the player himself, right? So
yeah, they were so confused when I was like, I have a question for Hihi. Who? And I was like, okay. And they corrected me and it was all good. Malthael burning through these minions as fast as he can. You can see Exterminator wrecks minion waves.
Yeah, it really does.
Oh, no, wait, it doesn't affect structures, does it?
No, it doesn't affect structures, but minion waves absolutely. Also against mercenaries, of course. You know, sometimes when you have to deal, I guess if you look at the roster of TeamNut, right? You have Tracer, you have Dehaka. Yeah. With the exception of Dehaka, maybe you don't really have a lot of wave clears. Wait a moment, Arthas gets blown to pieces. Speaking of Tracer here, Mercy having absolutely no mercy on that Arthas, on Huhu. And First Blood, you know, going over to TeamNut. Absolutely well played by them. But yeah, back to the point I was trying to make, Tetra. They don't really have a lot of wave clear, right? So maybe with the help of Exterminator and, you know, the Q, they're going to add a little bit of extra damage to minion waves and most importantly, mercenaries, which otherwise could survive for an unnecessarily long time.
Tracer pressures Meng even more. But yeah, you are right. That amount of extra pressure could be great. He's just getting tower after tower. As Tracer, Mercy tries to chase them down. That's going to be more confusing if we ever get Mercy in the game. We're seeing Behemoth Armor coming in here for the Reyna, sticking with a little bit of extra immediate health.
Yeah, you know, Behemoth Armor, it was nerfed in the past, right, a few months ago, but still a lot of pro players like to stick to it because it offers, you know, flat health, which is great against burst damage, and in longer games or maps where games could take a little bit longer, it can actually give you some significant late game healing power on your E as well, which scales with Reyna's max health.
Tracer, little bits of harassment every now and again. We're not seeing our sneaky little untouchable builds, sticking with the parting gift, going for that little bit of a melee blow up. Thrall duels with Dahaka in the top lane. Remember, Dahaka can always burrow down here. Reyna looks like he might want to join his team, but he's going to keep soaking in mid lane for as long as possible. Yeah. Both these teams look like their objective is to delay and try and make the other team focus on the objective. However, it doesn't really work if both teams do it.
Exactly. Echo of the Elements now completed, which should mean that Hugo is absolutely going to bully Jigsaw in lane, you know, with that additional self-healing, with the stacks building up from the Chain Lightning, the additional poking and wave clear. I think Thrall should now have a very, very handy time in lane. For now, though, we see additional zoning coming down here. Meng in trouble, actually dodging the pulse bomb there as well with a beautifully timed teleport.
And a quick route by Hugo prevents a follow-up on himself or onto Felix. And with that, Dahaka tunnels in far too late for the interrupt on the channel, but they are going to look for the kill onto ZJZ. Tracer, though, wants to show ZJZ something, and you know what it is? It's not Mercy, as they take down ZJZ.
Yeah, you know, he was able to stall things out here a little longer, ZJZ, so good movement here, good movement pathing by him, but in the end there was just too much zoning, you know, with the roots especially coming in from Alfurion, the superior mobility by heroes like Tracer, so bought a little bit of time, but in the end couldn't really do much, and this is exactly the moment TeamNut was waiting for. You know, with that Reyna, additional PvE damage now, thanks to the Exterminator at level 1, they're just gonna chunk down this boss, and the one isn't even close. Not even sure, they're probably expecting this, but they aren't even trying to race their own boss. They were busy taking mercenaries in the bottom instead. Now they're starting it, okay.
This is risky then, because they're starting very late. Hanzo, he is stacked, so he's going to get damage if he can get the angle right. And he is doing it. And no one else is reacting. We're seeing the mercenary being taken in bot lane again. Probably going to go for a tribute. This is just, excuse me, hiccups, just going to be a trade-off. By the way, before we hit level 10, it's going to be the Fuel the Rush coming in for Raider. Gains more a decreased cooldown on his adrenaline rush while his Inspire is active, and the cooldown reduction is basic attack. Sorry, it increases the cooldown reduction from basic attacks.
Absolutely,
I can word things well.
Exactly. So, you know, while Inspire is active with Jimmy's increased attack speed, he's going to lower the cooldown of the self-heal, as you said. So more self-protection, and that exactly allows Malthael on that Reyna to play as aggressively as he did. He had good vision on the enemy team members in the top lane, seeing Decker, Kane, and his boys in the top lane, aiding the boss's endeavors to take down a fort. So in a straight-up 1 versus 1, there's very little a Hanzo or a Phoenix can actually do against the Reyna these days.
We're sticking with Earthquake coming in for the one. Not going for the Sundering also against the Tracer here. The Lornado as well. Wow, they have very little instant lockdown. This is all about consistent fights. Basically, Dragon Arrow is their only immediate form of lockdown. On the other side, we have the Reyna's Raider coming in here. No zoning potential there, or the Hyperion, which might get interrupted by the Ghouls of Arthas. Yeah. However, the Lightning Breath will certainly melt the Ghouls of Arthas. So we'll see how effective that is.
Yeah, so of course a lot of empowerment coming in for Meng here with that salvo. He just needs to land a good one. For now, though, I think TeamNut is trying to fake a little bit of aggression here. They're just trying to look more aggressive than they actually want to be here with Diablo. Taking all that damage right now. Diaz coming in, so is Dahaka.
Just too slow, but now he is in trouble. There's that Firestorm Lightning Breath. Minimal healing actually coming out here as the salvo is dropped. The burrow was used by Jigsaw to keep himself alive for the moment, and now he's being basically a delay tool for the rest of his team as they try to run away. He's getting focused down. Good pulse bomb as they take out Huhu here as Jigsaw runs around the other side. Malthael's going to get rooted and taken out as well.
You know, Huhu and then Arthas, he's trading his life willingly here if that means that his team is going to get a triple kill out of it. And of course, a Ford is the cherry on the cake here. Absolutely. We see Diablo, though, getting chunked to pieces. The Lightning Breath actually not doing a whole lot.
He's fire stomping into the minimal possible amount of people while still actually hitting someone. If he'd gone up he would have got significantly more healing. I mean, he didn't go for the extra heal talent. He actually went for the Q Malevolence build, which is very much a late game build in general. But the fact is, he's still not getting the most out of his survivability as he could be.
Yeah, and the problem, of course, also was that communication there on the side of TeamNut was a little bit off. Diablo going in a little too early for my own taste and liking. Dehaka arrived too late. Reynor wasn't really in a position where he could participate actively in a teamfight as well, because he was the one actually taking care of the mercenary camp, of the siege giant camp that we can still see pushing in the top lane. This time, though, Lightning Breath is back. ZJZ in trouble. Takes the Dehaka burst damage as well, of course, as well with the isolation. And here goes a fully empowered TeamNut.
TeamNut's in Jigsaw's in trouble though. He gets sniped as Hehe has dropped his ghouls here as Dia goes into the backline, snipes the Hanzo with that damage output. He's getting removed. Tui is kiting for his life. Wind Fury! Pulse Bomb! It's a 1-for-1 trading out there. That makes it a 4-for-1 total though.
Yeah, 4 for 2 actually, because Dehaka also ended up dying early.
Yes.
So still though, a good trade for the Nuts. You know, after coming back from a loss in that previous team fight, they showed the one that they still have a little bit of fight left in them, and they also secure themselves a tribute. Very important, Tetra. It is now a 2 versus 2 in terms of overall tribute count. So the first curse of the game has still to yet to wait a little bit here. And during all this, we now see the Siege Giants, the camp that Reynor had taken earlier before, destroyed the top board as well from the one. So TeamNut now, not only in terms of kills are they looking mighty good, 7 against 5, but also in terms of XP, they fully caught up to this point.
Debilitating rounds coming in for Reynor, adding a little bit of slows for himself here. Everything's all in on this Inspire without anything that actually buffs the Inspire, so that's kind of interesting here.
Very inspiring build.
They begin to zone away. I see what you did there, by the way. Just want to make sure you feel appreciated. As the tribute comes up, CJZ, you're going to begin to channel it. Dia looks for an angle, can't get the Firestorm, but the Banshee gets the first intro, but it is now dead. Dehaka from behind, isolation misses, but there's the Tornado for the zoning and a beautiful salvo.
So much damage on a Tui. He needs to run for his life. With that tranquility, he stays alive for now. Meng is on the chase, though. Gets absolutely flung by Diablo. Is he going to make it? You know he's not, but a really good trade for the one after all.
Dia goes down, Mercy dodges, Reynor not so lucky, even with the slow from the knockback, it's not enough bullet spray from Mercy, but yeah, there's nothing Tracer can do. Diablo's coming back, nearly dying to scatter arrow actually.
Oh no way.
Rune lands. Oh, recall is having to be used, and Mercy is out of there.
Thrall, Hugo's trying to get another Chain Lightning onto the retreating Tracer, but this time she shall escape. However, the curse goes over to the one. And ladies and gentlemen, if you are new to HGC China, if you haven't watched in a very long time, then you will recognize this reckless, brawly playstyle that the Chinese teams like to execute also willingly. You know, they basically see a team fight, they go in, they don't really care about safety precautions or anything. Look at that, another fight breaks loose, and Diablo says goodbye.
So this build from Diablo is like solely reliant on hitting walls, and he's so far hit like 3 walls total this game. But Tui actually lives, and they do pick up the kill. Now looking for Hugo, who is currently isolated, but the silence wears off. Others comes around from the side onto Malthael, who is now completely isolated. Drag misses, double root from Thrall, salvo out, and goodbye Nuts.
Actually, Decker Kane got both of those kills, so with a double kill steal, ZJZ gets a little bit of the glory here as well. But look at that, ladies and gentlemen. TeamNut, it is so questionable, of course. Did they really have to go for this all-in team fight? Even if, you know, the one had lost a couple more team members, look at all that damage coming in from the PvE minions, and I think this middle keep is actually going to live if Dia has enough wave clear. Diablo, is he going to save it for now? I think he will be able to.
It's going to be close.
I think the Archer minions are actually going to be
OP.
OP.
It should be fine.
Yep.
Yeah, Archer minions should. No, it's dead.
Oh, my goodness.
One minion. Come on.
All planned.
Cast a curse. Midfall survives. Someone deal with that, please, so I don't look like a fool for too long as we see the Bruiser camp pushing in, and they're going to immediately leave it.
Yeah, of course, now Reynor with that Exterminator build helps greatly when it comes to dealing with those Bruisers, who otherwise would have taken that keep 100%. As it is, though, that keep is an easy target to backdoor at any given point now. So, especially after level 20, maybe if Hanzo decides to go for the global, he could always make those plays happen. Huhu now on that Arthas, trying to prevent the face checking. Uses a Howling Blast to keep the area under control. The same can be said about that Banshee. Look at that.
The Banshee, the Rainer's Raider, putting on some pretty decent harassment, at least for the moment. Let's see how well they can keep that up for the moment. It's still alive. It's not been harassed down, which is usually how these Banshees go. It gets summons, gets wrecked, and disappears.
Yeah. Dia, by the way, needs to be so careful. We have additional tank shredding now enabled by Thrall, for example, with that Alpha Wolf at level 16. So when that Feral Spirit connects, the auto attacks against Diablo will actually cause additional percentage damage. And Dia didn't necessarily have the best of his time here. Oh, look at the Scroll of the Stone Curse here at level 16. When more than 2 people, or 2 or more people are hit by the same scroll, it's going to be additional damage. So much damage, actually. But that boss, Tetcher, is going to be a problem. The top defense on the side of TeamNut have already been weakened.
The keep, however, is healthy. This might end up just being a distraction for the objective. We'll see what they can do as they are moving into position. What level 7? What's 17? What level 16 is that for Tracer? I don't know what that one.
For Tracer?
Not locked and loaded, yeah.
That should be the faster reload?
Interesting. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, it is the faster reload, actually. Yeah.
Alright, they're just going to let the boss run past. They grab some Siege Giants, root on Tracer with the armor reduction, but they charge it. This time Dia gets a really good hit. Good damage onto Meng. Here comes the Earthquake, and Dahaka from behind looks for a kill, but he gets wrecked. He's able to borrow and get his essence, though. Never mind, he's gone. And now it's the full retreat. This engage has not worked out. Scroll of Stone Curse is shredding through them. Zaps from Thrall. Mercy will escape here, but everyone else will fall. Diablo will actually not get a kill. Good dodge by Kenji.
And Hugo with a clean triple kill on that Thrall. We see it here on the left-hand side of our monitors. The boss actually absolutely crushed the defense lines of the top lane. The core is now naked and exposed. Who is just casually taking the middle keep as well, because why not? It was so low in the first place as well. But can they actually go for that core, though? How is their damage looking? Actually, with another kill, they probably sealed the deal anyways. But their core damage actually wasn't that great, with the exception maybe of Thrall. Tracer might be able to get one. No, gets shut down by Decker Kane, and I think Tetcher, no, actually, with the Haka, I don't think they can do it.
I think they can. They're just going to wreck it. Hanzo's untouched, Thrall sustained, Decker's just potioning health, so he's not taking any
with Thrall, they
damage.
can probably do it. Yeah, there we go.
Re-engage, that is going to be it. And that is GG. The one takes the 2-0 over TeamNut.
Second game was a little bit more one-sided than the first one we saw on Towers of Doom, right, Tetcher? But still, I think we have to give it to TeamNut. Valiant effort. As we said at the beginning of the broadcast, almost every single team in China has to deal with roster changes, you know, new players coming in, players being swapped with other teams. So with TeamNut actually only maintaining a TUI from the former roster we saw a few months ago, that is actually still pretty darn impressing, almost taking the full game, maybe even a series off one of the big top dogs in the league.